I'm Eamon.
I'm Merlin.
And we're Gay
And His Enby.
And it is episode 10, double digits. It's a history-making episode for the Gay and His Enby.
Woohoo!
And we are so excited to have another opportunity to give you all of our opinions of everything that we're watching. Thank you so much for listening to us, for supporting us, and we have so much that we want to talk about. Also, if you are interested in our Bravo opinions, that's going to be out tomorrow in our episode that's going to come out on Saturday. And we are going to have a lot to talk about on that episode, just to say the least. A lot happened, even in between filming last episode and releasing it. So we'll get to that, obviously. But this episode, what are we getting into, babe?
We have a shorter than usual group of things on this particular episode. Like we said, our episode tomorrow, episode 11, will cover all of our Bravo takes. But today, we're going to be covering Survivor.
Yes.
Obviously, the next episode 2 of season 44. Wow, season 44. But first, as always, Drag Race.
Drag Race, another great episode of Drag Race. We're getting close. We're getting down to the wire after this. We only have 7 queens left, which kind of feels crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, time flies when you actually start eliminating everyone every week instead of just dragging the process out. No, but this was a good episode this week. We come back into the workroom. Who went home last week? I can't even...
Spice?
Oh, yes. Oh, how can we forget? Spice going home. But we go into the workroom and they're sort of decompressing afterwards. And Lucy is in. This was Lucy's Jan episode, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they literally had memes of the image of Jan with the pink. I don't know what that runway look was.
The Michelle Visage look.
Yes, the Michelle Visage look. And the look from this episode of Lucy superimposed over each other. It was pretty great.
Yeah, Sasha is celebrating her second win, and Lucy's kind of still frustrated. And she's frustrated and is also mad that everyone is pointing out how frustrated she is, which is just making her more frustrated, which is really funny. I love how Mistress is just like playing with her in terms of it. She also keeps saying like, well, I'm proud of it because I've won 3 challenges.
So apparently what we have heard from her online is that the question posed was, how many total challenges have you won? And it was framed in including mini challenges and maxi challenges.
Sure.
But that was not included in the edit.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Let's see that full edit. I'm interested to see. But like, and she makes the point of like, and these were the most important because she won Snatch Game and she won the reading challenge and the photo shoot from the first episode.
But she said I won 3 of the most iconic Drag Race challenges, which, I mean, fair. They are 3 of the most iconic Drag Race challenges.
Yeah, but I think it's just really funny of like, how do we weight these at the end of the day? I feel like people have had this discussion of like, does the Snatch Game count more? Does like this challenge count more? It's like, but at the end of the day, it's just like,
I think maxi challenges should always count the equal amount.
Sure.
But in the memory of the fans, we're going to remember who won Snatch Game.
Yeah.
Like we're going to remember, like those are the challenges that we remember who wins.
They're a little
and
more
who
iconic.
Really sucks really bad. Like those are the ones we remember.
Yeah, and it's funny as well. So they move on in the group, and then Marcia starts talking about how she's kind of upset that she hasn't won a challenge yet, and she's still kind of like in that sort of safe realm. And Lucy like nudging Mistress and being like, "Are you going to critique her for like?" And Mistress being like, "Guys, Lucy's mad at me because I'm." Like, I love that Mistress just like takes the piss out of people in such a like really like just entertaining way at the end of the day. It's really good to see. I'm loving Mistress more and more. But we go into the workroom the next day and they basically introduce the challenge for this week, which is 50/50's most gag-worthy stars, where they basically have to be in groups and they are basically doing a play on 2020, the old, which do they do 2020? Yeah, they do 2020 still.
Sure.
It's not the same as the Barbara Walters era, rest in peace, but like, you know, I'm sure it's the, you know, But it was very much like the throwback to like the sort of old '90s interviews. I feel though, like when when you would do like the different segments and like the like
Even the way that they were introducing them, like all standing a equal 3 feet apart, like
Yeah.
in a blank square, like
And so and I really liked this challenge. And when they announced it in the preview for last week's episode, I was like, I'm really glad that they're doing this kind of a challenge again, where they do like you basically have to be an interviewer, where it's
Mhm.
like it's an actual skill that like you might need when you want to become a famous drag queen.
yeah. I was I was a little bit frustrated because we're hearing from several queens that they again edited a bunch of crap out.
Oh yeah.
That I mean, Marsha specifically talked about how, you know, because when she's introducing her segment,
Mhm.
she talks about, oh, what is it that she says? She talks about,
Because she was interviewing Charo.
but in she gives like this intro that is more indicative to what the interview actually was,
Okay.
but the edit was just her sitting there with a blank stare, not understanding Charo, which is frustrating for her and for me as a viewer because we don't get to actually see
Well, yeah, like that's the
the
thing.
actual interview.
And also I feel like to get to it. So first let's say that like everyone's in teams and they each get a different celebrity. Celebrity. Like
They each get a different person.
person that's certain people. Charo I would say is definitely a celebrity.
Uh-huh.
I would put that in the category. And and then you have Frankie Grande. Okay.
He's adjacent to a celebrity.
Sure, he was on Big Brother once.
He was on that one season of Drag Race for an episode.
Yeah. We'll get to it. And then it felt like no disrespect to Love Connie, who they've had on the show before, and she's a famous drag queen, and is an actor and has done but like it did feel like it was like someone fell through, and they were like, let's bring in Love Connie.
Yeah.
Like no disrespect, but and then to get to the point also of the challenge, kind of sort of what you were bringing up as well, it did feel like they basically told the celebrities like, okay, try to throw them off their game as much as possible. Like it felt like the point they were like, they did this challenge in season 6, right, with Chaz Bono and Cher's mom. Name can't register with me for some reason.
Mrs.
Mrs. Cher. I can't. But it was much more taken a little more seriously and sort of like how an interview would actually be conducted in that regards. This definitely felt like you're designed to sort of throw them off their game and see if they can rebound, which I get to a certain extent, but it did. I almost wanted it to be like more serious, not serious, but
Yeah, but I still feel like it to me, it felt like Charo was just being Charo.
Oh, sure.
And Frankie was just being Frankie, which those two things are not equal in the challenge, right?
Yeah.
That's not fair. That's already not equal. And then I feel like Love Connie was specifically trying to throw people off. To me, it felt like Love Connie got the note of try to throw them off, and the other two really didn't.
Right.
And it confused me a little bit, and it also felt really inequitable when you're talking about like the challenge itself. Like some people had a much easier challenge than others.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of focus on like the questions and like making sure you get into questions and and I think they ended up praising people for like the rapport necessarily and their personalities coming out as well, because I do think you need that balance in that kind of interview setting where you do have to make it about the guest at the end of the day. The guest should be the majority of the focus.
Mm-hmm.
But like I like the people, and we'll get into like everyone's performances, but I like the people that kind of showed a little bit more of their personality as well.
I tend to agree, but I feel like they also were judging people in a way that they would not be judged if this was a real interview.
Yeah.
Like if this was a real interview, not asking questions and just letting the
Person
talk would be not acceptable. Now, to be fair, Sasha did well in both regards because she was able to, I know I'm going to sound like Rue throwing this word around, but she was able to volley.
Yeah, oh God. I thought you were going to say something about Saboteur, and I was like...
No, that was Love Connie.
Yeah.
No, but I feel like she was able to hit the ball back and forth and have an equal rapport with the person, as opposed to some other people who were more run over, but when they tried to not be run over, they were also like Selena was trying to get her questions in and trying to, but it's a live interview. You can't just let them run on.
Right. And I think like she also, like, when I think of like Barbara Walters, if we're making the 2020 comparison, like her big thing was always the follow-up question and the importance of that question. And so sometimes you need to interject in the middle of something to, like, if you see a moment that like is like something you can sort of pick on and sort of like move it in a certain direction. I think Selena tried that. Whether it was successful or not is up to debate. But I think at least she had a better sort of understanding than Mistress and Malaysia, particularly, who I think just kind of froze more than anything. Like, I don't particularly remember anything Mistress did.
Well, and that's also what they showed of Marcia.
Yeah.
And so we also don't know what else was on the cutting room floor, right? Because we're hearing from Queens that the challenge is not an accurate representation of what really happened.
Sure.
And so that's also frustrating when it's being presented as a quote unquote live interview with no editing, yet it's edited when it's aired.
Yeah.
And it's edited when it's judged. And it's edited in such a way to make the judging look more appropriate. And that's what's so frustrating.
Well, that's my thing.
It's just like, more of that producer gaslighting.
That's my thing, though, of like, was it that Mistress in Malaysia froze and we didn't see anything, or worse stuff? Like, Malaysia's, I think, was probably the worst in terms of what we saw. Like, because she was in the cooking segment and it was
with
like
Frankie.
Yeah, and I think they made a good point of like it was almost like Frankie was interviewing her at the end of the day. Like,
right.
Like Malaysia relinquished too much power to where like it kind of like became Frankie's.
Now, to be fair, in a cooking segment, you're kind of supposed to let the other person take control of the reins.
It's also cooking segment. Can we talk about that for a second? They were making pizza, like they showed the pizza at the end before they put it in, and there's like literally a huge sausage link like on the pizza that's like not even like cooked or like.
Well, they had to get their dick jokes in there.
Oh, there we go.
But because they were talking about, do you like it thick or long? Like, so it's still Drag Race at the end of the day. But it was frustrating because, like I was saying, like a cooking segment, you're supposed to let the person who is cooking, who is bringing the expertise, quote unquote expertise, lead the segment.
Yeah.
And I know you love Wendy Williams, may her show rest in peace, but she never really did that. And that's why the cooking segments on that show were like weird.
I wish someone pulled a Wendy Williams in one of those cooking segments. And I think about it. Do you want to roll on this dope? Nope. I'll just eat.
No, I'm here to watch. You're here to cook.
Yeah. I also think so. Lux did really well, I thought, she was in the golf cart scene or whatever with Love Connie, and again, to use the term, volleyed really well, I thought, and like injected her personality in a way where it still felt like, we're seeing you as well. And Anitra, I thought, did really good too with Frankie and the sort of like they were just walking, but like you've seen those like things where it's like the sort of like
walking children in nature.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But like you said, I would want to see like the extent of how it actually went without the editing and all that stuff. We go back into the workroom the next day and they're getting ready for the runway, and the runway category is Night of 1,000 Beyoncés. I always love a Night of 1,000 category. Mm-hmm. It's always a fun time. Like, and we'll get to it. I think people
unless everyone wears kimonos.
Yeah. But and Beyonce I think was a better choice than J-Lo last year because it's
God.
like And also, no one went with the obvious J-Lo look last year. Like, no one went Jenny from the Block, and it was like, okay, like, what are we doing?
Well, I mean, Carrie did the other iconic J-Lo look.
But she had
the dress, the actual dress.
So, but speaking of Beyonce, so Sasha Colby starts talking about how she had heard and that there was stuff through the grapevine. She didn't say it was like 100% true, but that Beyonce may have been at a show of hers, and that's where she got the idea for Sasha Fierce.
Which is gag worthy. That is amazing.
I kind of buy that, honestly. Like, that makes so much sense.
News articles have been written about it in the last week. Have you seen those?
Oh no, I haven't.
It's a story that's people are running with.
Sasha, I mean, we've seen Sasha's performance ability too, and it really embodies a lot of that vibe. Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit.
I mean, if you're going to use somebody for inspiration, Sasha Colby is not low on the list of people to use.
Yeah, I agree. We go to the run. We haven't talked much in the last couple of weeks about there still being 43-minute episodes or whatever, and they've done a.
Next week we get 90 weeks.
Is this the first time we get 90 weeks
or 90 minutes? Is next week, I think.
Like, and by the way, that the show with all the twinks on it hasn't been running for like a couple weeks now, and they're still, I think it's because they already edited the episodes and they didn't want to go back in and add 30 minutes. But like,
they had 6 weeks because they knew from day one that we were mad.
Sure,
they could have,
but I don't know when they got the confirmation from MTV of like, you can go back to this. It seemed like it was very recent. Mm-hmm. But what I will say is like, this was so like they.
Also, wouldn't they have already had the 90-minute episodes edited? They had the 90-minute episodes
I don't think so.
handed to them by World of Wonder.
Were they? I think
because World of Wonder puts out a product, a full edited product, and hands it to MTV. MTV then edited it further.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because they have producers and editors at World of Wonder that already do that.
Because my understanding was they filmed thinking it was 90 episodes, and then sometime in between that they were told, no, it's 43. So I'm not sure exactly. But I say that all to say, like, they introduce, like, Ru comes out and says the judges, Michelle Visage and T.S. Madison, but then don't give them any jokes. Like, normally there's that, like, banter of, like, hey, Michelle, insert joke, and then Michelle does the witty response, and they cut all of it.
Yeah.
And it was like...
you know what I realized this week is that because they've been cutting out the judge deliberation, we haven't been getting back the bring back my girls.
Yeah, that's annoying. I don't know if I necessarily missed the actual deliberations.
But I missed that.
Because
it's always different. Every episode it's different, and it's usually thematic.
And it's an iconic part of the show. Like, it's frustrating. Let's go to the runway, Night of 1,000 Beyoncés. Who were some of the standouts for us? By the way, also, if you follow us on TikTok, you can go and look at our Toot and Boots for the week.
Also shared on Instagram and
Twitter.
on Twitter. Not on YouTube because YouTube hates us because we're using clips from the show, but whatever.
Well.
How else am I going to do a Toot and Boot video?
Just imagine it. Just imagine what the looks like in your head.
Just go online and listen to our theme song Pulsar by Shane Ivers and watch the runway again on silent, and then that's it.
Yeah. It's a workaround. It's fine. I keep thinking of that Sasha Colby look. That Sasha Colby look was so freaking good. The silver, and it was so like, we'll talk about it later, but like with this kind of look, you really wanted to go into the details, and it was so perfectly detailed to that actual Beyonce look. And she moved like Beyonce down the runway, like the way she like was dancing was like, there was such an attention to detail to what she did.
I think the one that stands out to me, there's two that stand out to me. Luxe.
Yes.
Which we find out during the judging that that look is the recreation of, obviously, because that's the theme, is the recreation of a Beyonce look. The original dress worn by Beyonce is an original Bob Mackie that Ru had worn before Beyonce wore it.
Yeah, and and I loved it because it was Beyonce and a little bit of Ru, and a little bit of Tina Turner, and like it had all the...
Well, but Bob Mackie did a lot of Tina's looks too. So, I mean, of course it's indicative. Also, now realizing Lux is the reference queen. She knew.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way she didn't know that dress worn by Beyonce was also worn by Ru.
But it's also great that because she's so young,
Yeah.
that she can still get those references in, and you could tell she has a appreciation for drag. I mean, she quotes Drag Race a lot in her confessionals, but also like,
Well, and it goes missed.
yeah,
No, like people just let it lie, and it's like, no, celebrate this because this young queen has done her research and knows what show she's on. And a lot of the times in the last, I'd say 6 or 7 seasons, we haven't really had a lot of that. We haven't had a lot of awareness other than I'm on TV, must act, into my character, as opposed to
self-producing.
Like we've had a lot of that sort of awareness of what show you're on, but I thought that was really it's such an honoring of the history of the show and the history of drag in general and the history of fashion.
And she's such a throwback in many ways. Now that I think about it, like her drag is very like, it's still modern, but with such a good throwback and appreciation to like the 80s and 90s and those like sort of little like, she gives me like early RuPaul, like Supermodel World, like, walking through New York.
Without any of the because RuPaul had a rough era.
RuPaul
had her like gender fuck era Club Kid gender fuck era that Lux has kind of like stepped past because she's like, that's not my aesthetic. But like she stepped straight into Glamazon.
Yeah.
And is embodying early era Ru, and it's really, really nice to watch.
I also wanted to praise Malaysia's look. I thought this was one of the best Malaysia looks she's had this season. This like, very iconic sort of black and white Beyonce look with the sort of like cut off shorts that are, styled right.
I think it was Raja on Fashion Photo Review that said, even if you don't know that this look is Beyonce, you look at this look and you go, that's a Beyonce look.
Yeah.
Like it embodies who she is, and it was a very smart choice. The other look that really stood out for me was Selena. I thought this
was the most beautiful she's looked.
The hair was gorgeous. The makeup was gorgeous. The body was right. The dress was right. It looked expensive.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was really smart to have the little Ru bust instead of the Grammys. That was so good. And it was beautifully done. And I thought that it really showed a side to her that we have not seen before.
Yeah.
That really elegant, glamorous, high-end, rich, like just looked. Ugh.
I also really liked, the gag of Mistresses with the Kelly and Michelle puppets on her shoulders.
That was good.
Was really smart and like, a good way for her to still do that kind of look that you wouldn't think would be like someone of her style drag. You wouldn't think be able to do a
she's
Beyonce
not really
look.
done a lot of camp yet.
Yeah.
And so showing that her ability to go there with a campy look that was still glamorous and was still elegant. And you pointed out, I think, that the dresses of the puppets were the sleeves,
which was so smart because the Beyonce's actual dress in the look is sleeveless, but she had the sleeve element to mimic the dresses of the two on her shoulders, which I thought was so smart. I wanted to really like Lucy's. I thought Lucy's choice was so smart, but oh my god, like when you're doing a look, when you're doing a Night of 1,000 look, it needs to be perfectly accurate, and the jacket wasn't the right color.
I was fine with that part because it still harkened back, but the fact that she didn't wear a belly, she didn't put a bump in there. It's like if you look back at Beyonce, she was visibly pregnant.
Yeah, and it wasn't a huge bump. It wasn't.
No, it was like a 3 or a 4 month bump, but it was
needed the bump.
You needed the bump. She's sitting there rubbing a flat belly, and it's like, what, you got indigestion? Did you have Chipotle for lunch? What do we got?
And she looked beautiful. Like Lucy looked really beautiful in the
look.
But
it really put me off. Like you stopped short of really doing this look justice.
Yeah.
And it just it soured the look for me.
So in the top for this week, we have Lux, Sasha, and Lucy LaDuca. And in the bottom, we had Mistress, Selena, and Malaysia. Marsha and Anitra were safe. I thought that was the right call.
I agree.
Like, I think this was pretty cut and dry, straightforward. And so Sasha ends up winning, which is her third challenge win, 2 in a row.
Yeah. And Lucy's ass was so chapped.
She was so bad.
Oh, it was good. She almost stomped back to that back row.
Just that like stone face, like slow clap, but you don't want to clap. Like
it was so good. It was delicious. I love Lucy, and I think she's done very well this season, but it's just so good to see her pout. It's so funny. It just
yeah, and Sasha has been running away with the competition, it seems like.
A lot of people have been theorizing that Sasha will be the person that Rue taps to take over. Because of that question of, have you ever done TV before? No, I've never. Well, you're a natural.
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing. And honestly, I would watch the fuck out of a Sasha's Drag Race.
I mean, I feel like that's the person to do it, just from not just the Drag Race element, but like how respected Sasha is within the drag community. It would be the equivalent of like, obviously the styles are different, but like if Lady Bunny were to take over for Rue, which like, you know, like I think that wouldn't be something that Bunny, like that's not Bunny's thing, but like
also it would be the same age. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
The whole point is to extend the longevity of the show.
Yeah. And I think like at the very least she could be a guest judge. At the very least, because like, and they should do more drag. I mean, some of the international franchises are starting to do like more former Drag Race queens as guest judges, which I think they need to do more of.
Or hosts.
Or hosts.
Because Brooklyn's got Canada. We've got, what's her name on
Rita
France?
Baga's doing Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The one on...
Nikki Doll.
Nikki Doll is on France. So, I mean, it's...
I think it's good because I think they've shown that they can do it. Like,
right.
That it's possible to have it and have it still be believable and, you know... and then Mistress ends up being safe with Selena and Malaysia in the bottom. This was kind of surprising to me. I kind of felt like they could have saved Selena.
I agree. I thought Selena's, like, at least because they didn't seem to be as critical of her performance as they did Mistress's. And I thought that her look was better than Mistress's. So I really did think that she deserved to be...
And I think also from a producer standpoint, you would think you would want that Mistress Malaysia lip sync when they had been feuding earlier in the season.
Right.
Like that seems to make more sense to me.
I mean, unless they
wanted to keep Mistress and they didn't have the confidence that like she would win.
And, you know, they may have wanted to cement Selena as the lip sync assassin because this does cement her as that. This is her third bottom 2 lip sync, and she won in the first round of the Lollapalooza. So, like, clearly she is someone you don't want to go up against in the bottom.
Well, yeah. So let's get to the lip sync because they lip sync to "Single Ladies" by Beyonce.
And if we're talking about Night of 1,000 Beyoncés, if you just took Beyonce's face and put it on Selena, well, obviously they're different color people, but like. It was Beyonce dancing.
Well, one with a Beyonce lip sync in general, you have to go high energy. I feel. Unless it's a ballad, obviously, or you know something in that regard. Like you have to sort of go really high energy because Beyonce's known more, honestly, at times more for the choreo than the singing.
Oh, but could you imagine between these two if I were a boy? Oh
yeah, that would be. Good.
That would have been good.
I'm surprised they haven't done that on Drag Race.
That would be such a good ballad.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not normally one for a ballad lip sync, but that one would be amazing.
And with this lip sync, I think the only issue I had was that I think the problem is when you do Single Ladies, you have to do the Single Ladies dance. Like, you have to when you have a song where there's so much, it's so much famous for the choreography.
Right.
Like, you can't really veer from the choreography.
Like, you at least have to reference it. You at least have to do a bit. But Selena did the whole damn music video, and it was stellar.
Right. And I think that was Malaysia. Malaysia tried to go elsewhere, and I think that kind of tripped her up because you want to see the choreo because it's so iconic with it. But Selena ends up winning the lip sync, and Malaysia ends up going home. I'm sad for Malaysia. I think Malaysia did really good this competition. Like, I think, you know, even though she hadn't had a win, but like, I think she really had put in a lot of great work. I think she's clearly a very, you know, talented individual. I think we've seen sometimes with like queens though, it's like the Drag Race challenges are stuff so out of their realm. Like queens, you can be an amazing queen and still not do sort of the things that you have to do on Drag Race.
Right.
And
it's a different thing.
And that sometimes trips people up. But I think she rebounded well when she did. And like, you know, I think she's a really, you know, she was just delightful at the end of the day. Like, I think she has a good future.
I think if she goes home and actually learns how to sew and create, because what she was able to create on the show, not knowing what she was doing, if she goes and learns how to sew, she will murder All Stars.
Yeah, I think she would do great on All Stars. Like, I think, you know, I think she has a lot of really good potential, and I think, you know, I want to see more of what she does in her career. But we're down to 7 queens left. Only 7. I mean, like, it's going to get down to the wire quickly. Like, I think, you know, so obviously we talk Sasha's sort of in the front runner position, but like, it really is anyone's game. I think Mistress is up there. I think Lux is up there.
Anitra.
Yeah. Lucy still. Like, I think it's, you know, a really good cast towards the end. And honestly, not everyone, like, credit to Selena for making it to top 7. I didn't necessarily expect that going into the season. Like, you know, you could say the same even for Marcia to a certain extent. Like,
yeah, but I mean, both of them, and we've said it time and time again, like the quality of work put in by the queens on this season, if they had been on previous seasons with those casts, they could have won.
Yeah.
Any one of these, well, almost any one of these queens, any one of these top 7 could have won another season. And it's just really indicative of the quality of queens we are getting, because there was a time there when we thought the quality was drooping because we had run through everybody. But we've got a full new generation of queens that is out here kicking ass. And I can't wait to see what we do in the next few seasons. It's going to be phenomenal.
It's really good stuff. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to get into episode 2 of Survivor 44 and everything that went down in Fiji. Don't go anywhere.
Well, hello, friends. I'm your pal in the mainstream media.
And I'm the Riz.
And, you know, Riz, it takes years of strenuous, dedicated training before you're worthy to step inside a professional wrestling ring. But it takes even more time to develop complex, highly astute opinions about professional wrestling. Am I right?
That is correct. Yes. And you know where we can find that?
Yes.
On the Wrestling Mayhem.
That's right.
I'm Eamon.
I'm Merlin.
And if you're anything like us, you live your life out loud.
And when it comes to issues of discrimination, inequity, and outright bigotry, we use every platform we have to speak out against systems of oppression that perpetrate violence against marginalized groups.
That's why we are so proud to wear designs from the Survivors Know merch store. Their team has created designs that feature unapologetic, empowering, and survivor-centered messaging that range from mild,
like accountability is love and toxicity is not on the menu,
to a little more spicy.
Like one of my favorites, fuck your laws, fuck your system, transformative justice now, which has a cute little happy flower on it.
Each design is available on a variety of items from t-shirts and hoodies to bags, blankets, magnets, and even stickers. And as more items become available, the options will continue to grow.
100% of the proceeds go back into supporting the amazing work done at Survivors Know to support survivors, workers, and survivor advocates by organizing, challenging the status quo, and creating alternatives to the systems that fail us.
Support Survivors Know by shopping today at survivorsknow.threadless.com.
That's survivorsknow.threadless.com.
Sidekick Media Services. We are your sidekick in business for social media, video production, and more. Find out more at sidekickmediaservices.com.
Welcome back to A Gay and His Enby. We are getting here into Survivor.
44. I really like this episode. And
Yeah, I honestly, I really like this cast. It's such a good cast.
And I think they, I saw a good mixed critique of the first episode of like some people really liked it, some people still thought it was too advantage heavy and not enough like story like dynamics heavy. I think this episode we got much more of the sort of interpersonal dynamics of the tribes.
I mean, last episode they had 2 big injuries and
Sure.
they had a medivac,
and they had to, they had to introduce all these new advantages and explain these whole big concepts and stuff like that.
It's fine. It's episode 1. We don't
But it made me more hopeful than sometimes I think also with the 3 tribes of 6, we've talked about this where it's a lot and it's hard to keep track of. I have sort of a better understanding of everyone's dynamics right now in terms of who is aligned with who is supporting who is, gunning for who. I kind of got a better understanding this episode, clearer than I had in the past for other seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy with that. We come back from last week's tribal council, and Ratu is returning to their camp at night. Matthew kind of explains why he chose to use his shot in the dark at the tribal, knowing that he was safe. Basically saying that by doing so, he almost wanted to not get safety from the shot in the dark because he didn't want to vote, because he didn't want to essentially show his cards in terms of where he was aligned, because he knew that he was hoping that Brandon would play his idol to sort of keep him and then sort of expose everyone else for where they were going to go, which ended up happening.
Right. And, honestly, we both thought he was crazy last week when he did that shot in the dark. And with that explanation,
it makes more sense than Jamie's.
It makes sense. And it makes me think, finally, we've got somebody on this show who is playing to win from day one.
Yeah.
He's already building his resume in a way that nobody else is really going to understand until he gets to the end and lays it out.
We'll have to see with the whole M curse. I told you about the M curse, right?
Right.
Of the fact that if the first person of a tribe that goes home who starts with the letter M, which was Maddie last episode, if they go to the tribal next and Matthew doesn't go home because he's the other letter M, then he's winning the season. By the track record of the last couple seasons.
I wouldn't be mad at it.
I think, we talked about how pretty Matthew is, but it's a good strategy too. He really is smart. And also we'll get to later where there's some people who clearly aren't as smart as they want us to believe. But we'll get to that. Lauren, this also was, so Lauren then tells everyone that she has her extra vote. And that she, from her save a vote, whatever thing that she had where she banked, or the bank a vote, that's what they were calling it. What is this trend now of everyone telling everyone their advantages? I don't understand it.
I don't understand that. And then I was just also really frustrated that nobody called her on lying. Nobody, what are we doing?
It feels like you were saying, did she tell them before they went to tribal, maybe?
I mean, it felt like it because nobody acted surprised when,
yeah.
I'm so confused as to when this timeline happened, because from what we saw her come back from the other island in episode 1. We saw her come back with her advantage and decide to lie about not having the advantage. And so she instead told them that she lost her vote.
Yeah.
That was what we thought that her stance was the entire time. But then when they were scrambling for the tribal.
Oh, for the tribal, you're right.
When they were scrambling for the tribal, when they were counting up votes, they were counting her vote.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, so did she tell them? Are they operating under the assumption that that what Maddie said is true, that she does still have her vote and had an advantage instead?
Yeah.
What is going on here?
Yeah.
And then they go to tribal, she does her thing, and then she comes back in this episode and acts like she's telling them this information brand new, and everybody's like, okay, kumbaya. I'm like, what?
Well, I mean, she says that Brandon Idol's been flushed now because he played it at the tribal. So now I'm the one with all the power. Are you really? Like, you just really have the target on your back. I don't understand this whole concept. I feel like they've fed into the Kool-Aid that Jeff or whoever has been putting in their head for seasons of like, advantages can be currency. They can be, to buy trust or whatever. And it's like, no, keep that shit to your fucking self.
I mean, it can be if you are very, very, very careful on who you let know.
Yeah. Jesse last season this is why I love Jesse, because Jesse was the only one in the last 5 or 6 years at this point who was like, oh, I got an advantage. I'm keeping it to my fucking self.
Yeah.
Duh. It's like, I don't understand it. And then Kane, who's also on Raw 2, is basically Brandon's kind of so you were the only one still here that voted for me. And so now he's kind of has a target on his back, and he makes it worse later in the episode too. We go to the Soka tribe the next morning. They're talking about their puppies and they're Matt, it gets into transitions into Matt talking about how he's coming into this season off of a bad breakup.
With a woman?
Apparently he's straight. The whole episode were like, but he has gay face. How is this possible?
My gaydar is rarely off, and it was off on. Well, I mean, maybe he's bi. We don't know.
Possibly,
but I could have sworn he was family. I
can't. Maybe it's just the awkwardness.
I'm befuddled.
It's just he. So they also show that he's bonding with Franny a lot. Pretty openly in front of the tribe as well. And they make he makes that comment about when they're I forgot even what it was in reference to, but he was like, "You're a little fishy, and I got a big long rod," not thinking that he was making a sex.
Oh, jeez.
It was okay.
I missed that.
Yeah. Well, and they're doing this just in blatant in front of the tribe, but they're trying to be oh no, we should probably talk to other people and not focus on ourselves. But then they immediately keep talking to each other. And you busted out when they cut to Claire with that disgusted look on her face. Just
it was so good. We literally had to stop the episode because I was laughing over everything else that was happening.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. That has such meme potential. It's beautiful.
Yeah, Claire is the meme queen of the season. We go over to Tika's tribe. They're discussing the bag in the cage and what to do with it.
Oh my God, this whole thing.
So Carolyn and Yam Yam, or is it Jam Jam? They keep saying Jam Jam.
I don't know.
I don't know what they
Well, no. The tribe says both, and Jeff also says both.
Okay.
And it's just which one? Can we get some clarity here, please?
It's YAM, but
right. But I mean, in some languages, Y's are J's, and so I mean, I get it.
Yeah,
but I'm confused.
But essentially, him and Carolyn want to look for the key, and everyone else is kind of iffy with it. Basically, everyone else who's in an alliance right now, Helen, Sarah, and Carson. But they end up go looking. Carolyn is trying to find it. She gets up into this tree at one point,
sticks her hand down in it, and there's a giant snake in there,
and starts freaking out. So basically, we go to each of the tribes at this point because right now everyone's looking for the key to essentially, at least except on the Ratu tribe, Kane is actually just looking for the idol because he knows the idol was flushed out at the last tribal and that it gets put into play. But he's doing it pretty obviously. The tribe is noticing that he's searching. He finds a crab in a tree and alerts them and be like, "Hey, I found a crab for food." And they're like,
"Yeah, but why were you looking in that spot?
That's not where firewood is.
That's also not where crabs usually are."
Yeah. And then we have Danny over on the Soka tribe actually going and looking for an idol as well, but he does end up finding a key.
Okay, but he's family, right?
Is he?
It's wishful thinking.
He started flossing when he got the key, which makes me think not.
I mean, there's gay people that floss.
Sure.
Right? Is it the kid that made up the floss? I don't know. Who knows?
The backpack kid? Maybe.
I mean,
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm just going through my notes. They're also Carolyn makes some metaphor. What was the metaphor she makes about digging through her son's poop for a tooth or something?
Yeah, she said something about her son had lost a tooth and swallowed it, and so she dug through his poop for 3 days, because she was not going to have her son not have a tooth to put under his pillow to get the tooth fairy. You put a poop tooth under your child's pillow?
Not a poop tooth.
That's
but she ends up finding the key. And then on the Soka tribe, Danny goes when everyone's sort of away and gets the idol. So in his bag, it's an idol, and then like he says a silver coin.
right.
That's useless, which is essentially like I guess a dummy.
Mm-hmm.
But like the other one was an idol, a fake idol, and I think
They're all immunity idols.
Yeah.
It's just
I'm just confused as to why it was.
well, but there's
different.
been different styles of idols throughout the years on Survivor. Even amongst the different tribes, there's usually a different style of idol.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just they just threw some shit
Maybe
in there.
so that if that like whenever they merge or something like that, or they don't have three of the same looking like thing.
Maybe.
Possibly. Carolyn is like, everyone's sort of away, and she thinks, should I go get the idol? Should I not go to get it? Like, is like,
Oh dear God!
and she finally decides to go get it, and then she grabs the bag and goes.
She
back
was about
to
to
camp.
give me a heart attack with this whole thing.
And then, like, as she's back at camp, she realizes, oh shit, like the thing is completely open and empty, so they're gonna know someone took it.
Like-
they're gonna know I took it specifically, which.
I mean, we'll get to it.
So then she has to rush back and try to put the bag back. Doesn't put the fake idol in the bag, I don't think.
No, she doesn't put the idol in the bag. She doesn't close the bag all the way.
No.
And then she hangs it up there, closes it, locks it, and runs off. And then keep in mind, guys, that there are 5 people on the tribe. 4 of them were all together at the watering hole. And then they come back, and Carolyn is in camp. And they see the cage with the bag still swinging because she just ran away.
Literally, there should have been smokestacks.
Like it was literally like seconds. And they come in and they're like, oh, it's not weighing the bag down anymore. It looks like it's been taken. I wonder who did it. And they start questioning each other.
Babe, Carson has studied FBI training. He knows how to read people. This was where I was like, I was liking Carson the first episode, and this was like, oh, you're an idiot. And you want us to believe you're smart.
I feel like they put Carolyn on the right tribe because it's all just Carolyn's. They just all hide it better.
Yeah, it's like, it was obviously Carolyn, guys, but then everyone thinks it's everyone else. And they're all like sort of like independently pointing fingers. And it's like,
And then they
guys.
literally dismiss the possibility of it being Carolyn.
And we'll get to tribal later too, where they like another part of that like was bonkers to me. But it was just like, oh my God, like you guys are stupid. What are you doing? We go to the immunity challenge. And they basically do, so it's another like big obstacle course, et cetera thing. They have to find a ball.
I really liked this one. This one was nice.
I like the like drawbridge.
Yeah, that was cool. I think they've done that one time before, but it was really nice to see it again.
And basically it ends with one person from each team, once they get to the end, doing this like snake. I guess it's a maze, but it's like you have to it's the one where you have to put the ball, and then you have the 2 levers that control each side of this like sort of like curved thing that you have to work up this snake to get to the top. Which there's there's like a viral video of like a little girl doing it like in like 10 seconds or whatever.
Oh yeah, it's bonkers.
So because Soka needs a sit out for the challenge, Claire sits out again, and like Jeff like points this out of like, is this like a group decision that you're sitting out a second? I didn't think it was a big deal that she sat out a second time.
But then I realized that in seasons past, that's not been a thing. You've usually not been allowed to sit out back-to-back challenges.
Right, but and I think we discussed this of like, if they do 2 challenges an episode where it's a reward challenge and then an immunity challenge, then you can't sit out 2 in a row.
Right.
But if it's just an immunity challenge that also has a reward added to it, then you can sit out whoever you want, I think.
I get, or if it's like the last time you sat out was last episode, then you can sit out again.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird.
But also like, so it's just like, well, there was that one season too where Abby Maria like set out most of basically the first half of the show. Like,
Yeah. But
so-
it was,
and
but it was,
Sandra's also famous for always sitting out of challenges.
but
so-
it was always the immunity challenges because she was smart in that she was going, well, you can't throw me out for screwing up immunity challenges if I'm not participating in the immunity challenges.
yeah, that's true.
Sandra's smart.
Yes.
Sandra is a case study of how to fucking game Survivor.
So we get to this. So we get basically everyone gets at their point to the end where they're doing the snake bit. There was one point where like, because it's so like deft of hand what you have to do, because it's like the lightest touch moves it like that much. Like you have to be really light with it. And like Sarah from Tika, like at one point gets like almost like 3/4 of the way and then just jerks her hands back and forth. Like it's like you were saying it was like,
It looks like one of those as seen on TV
Yeah.
like commercial infomercials.
how do they do it? Like
Where you just like throw a stack of Tupperware in the air and then, oh no, with your hands on the side of your head. It's what it looked like. It was great.
so funny. So Ratu ends up finishing first, Soka in second, which means Tika then has to go to tribal council. Matthew, who was doing the snake puzzle for Ratu, who also is coming off of a dislocated shoulder, which but he said he decided to power through it, and basically he said that he built a replica out of like balsa wood or whatever of this exact like puzzle to like practice on. Which we've also find out later that Carson like 3D prints
Puzzles.
puzzles
Yeah.
from the chat. We're at a weird point in Survivor. I mean, good on you. Like, I think like do everything that you can and get prepared before coming on the show. But it was just like, part of me also thinks that they need to mix things up a little bit in terms of challenges.
Yeah.
And like, I listened to another podcast called Drop Your Buffs that talks about Survivor specifically, and they really wanted to like going back to some of like the like earlier season challenges where it's the more basic of just like roll this ball up this hill and try not to die. Like, like I feel like that like doing those sort of like everything is like a 4-part like obstacle course that like ends in this like big like
Yeah. I mean, if we're gonna get rid of anything, though, we first need to get rid of that. Surviving under the grate and the tide coming
from last
in.
season.
Well, I hate it. I hate it every time that they do it because it is like
It's
this-
basically just CBS's excuse to like waterboard people on camera. Like,
it's awful. It is the worst challenge that they have. It is the most dangerous challenge that they have. And honestly, I'm surprised no one has needed to get medevaced from that challenge.
I need them to bring back the straddle that giant pole like at the top where it's like essentially if you slip you just fall straight to the fucking sand.
That one's dangerous too. People have like really screwed their feet up with that one.
It's like they're people masochists, I guess you could say, would make the argument that like that's what Survivor should be. But like I, as a human being with like feelings and emotions, I'm like, yeah, let's not, put some bubble wrap on the, especially when we had the concussion last episode. Like,
yeah.
But as I mentioned, Tika has to go to tribal council. Basically, the dynamic is that Helen wants Carolyn out. That it's the best option for them because Helen, Sarah, and Carson are sort of closely aligned at this point. And Sarah doesn't have her vote because of what happened when they went to the island, essentially. Right. So they're like, well, we need to pull in Yam Yam to get this together. Yeah. This part where Yam Yam is just with them and be like, yeah, I totally agree. We need to get out Carolyn. And like he's literally in the confessional be like, they want me to get out Carolyn. And then cut to him like running across the beach going, Carolyn! They want to get you out.
It was great.
It was like I love little moments like that where it's just like it's so comedy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Hey.
Basically, Yam Yam and Carolyn then decide that they want to target Helen. They think that she's like sort of the biggest strategic threat on the group, and that they basically try to get Carson to sort of come over. And now Carson's kind of in the middle between the two. But Carolyn's not really trusting of Carson. She's naturally very paranoid just in general. So it's not, not surprising that she's just like, well, I mean, it would be so obvious for them to vote me out, like,
Yeah.
etc.
I'm really surprised she didn't play her idol.
Well, and also like he lays out the Carson being the middleman, you could tell he's enjoying it of like, well, I got all this power because and everyone trusts me. Carson is definitely, from what we saw earlier with like the whole cage and the idol stuff, like he definitely in his confessionals is like sort of giving off like what he wants us to perceive him as in this game.
Oh yeah.
That he's this like big master strategist and like, has this great social game, which I don't think he has a bad one necessarily, but I don't personally see it in the
he's trying to be Cochran and it's just not.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
It's very Cochran. They go to tribal council and start discussing things, and Carolyn at one point like literally breaks down and starts crying, which like honestly, probably garnered a lot of sympathy. I think Carolyn, maybe she's not the smartest in terms of like direct strategy and knowing the strategy in her head, but I feel like some of the moves that she's making, either like intentionally or unintentionally, are kind of working to her favor in many ways.
Yeah. I mean, it's say what you will, but other people have won with chaos games as well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, heavily respected players have won with chaos games. No
one thought Gabler was going to win last season. Like,
let's not talk about Gabler.
Oh God. Oh, and speaking of Carolyn, they start to vote, and we talked last week about the set for tribal council and how like in the voting booth they have like this big chessboard and all that stuff. And there's a chess piece on the right side that's essentially the marker for them to write their vote. And she's just like, which one is it? Like there's so many chess pieces. She like freaks out, and it's just like I'm so discombobulated over here. It was objectively really funny. Carolyn is growing on me in a way that I really appreciate.
Well, she almost gave away when Jeff called for idols.
That's what I was going to mention. Like about how the hell do they not know that Carolyn's the one with the idol? Like,
she literally reaches for it and then puts her hand back in her lap.
It's like I would zone on that in a fucking second. Why did they not, maybe we'll see next episode.
I mean, she was on the outside and it was on that same side, so.
But guys, 2 + 2 = 4. Let's get this shit together. It's not that complicated.
It's really not.
And I think that's the thing with Survivor now is just everyone thinks everything is like a 6 degree, like a 4-step move that people are playing, where it's like, no, it's like the obvious answer is the answer. I don't understand why they're so overthinking it in many regards. But as you mentioned, Carolyn doesn't play her idol, but she ends up not having to because Carson decides to basically vote out Helen, which kind of is a big deal. And Sarah, obviously, without her vote, Helen goes home 3-1. This I thought was kind of a surprising elimination. I thought Helen actually could have gone pretty far. It seemed like she was very intelligent and
But I mean, the people that are obvious that could go far are the people usually that get voted out right at the beginning.
That's the problem.
I mean, that's one of the problems with Survivor, and maybe it's not the problem, but I feel like the good players don't, the best players don't make it. It's the middle of the pack player that wins. And I mean, part of that is hiding being a good player, but you can't really do that. It's almost impossible with these tribes that are only 6 people to really hide your machinations.
There was back in the day, there was so much about lowering your threat level. And I think the best players also understood that to a certain extent. But when everyone is so paranoid and everyone is such a game player going into a season, it makes it that much harder to have those tough players survive.
Well, but it also makes it harder for those people to hide when there's only 6 people on the tribe.
Yeah.
When you've got a 10-person tribe starting out,
you can blend in.
You've got multiple people that you have to take out, and you've got to start weighing your options, and you leave good people on. That's why mid-game in these shorter seasons seem meh.
Yeah.
So much, because all of your power players are out at the beginning. Not to say that all of the people that have left so far have been power players, but that has been a trend. Your good players go out early and they never make it to mid-game. They never make it to jury. And it's it's frustrating because those are the people you really want to see do well.
Yeah.
And the people that you don't really care about are the people that end up in the final three. And it doesn't make for the same exciting game that we're used to.
Yeah. It's a conundrum, and I don't know how they fix that, but it's a interesting conundrum that they have to deal with. I do agree. I will also note that Helen in her like goodbye confessional basically said that she didn't like being the third person voted out, and I was like, technically you're the second because you were medevac, or because Bruce was medevaced in the first episode.
Right.
So just clarity on that point. Not to rub salt in the wounds. But overall, I thought this was a good episode of Survivor. I liked getting to know people a little bit more and their personalities and sort of like focus. I think they just need some more time to focus more attention on interpersonal dynamics. I like advantages. I like all that kind of stuff. But I'm more interested in the social aspect in terms of like who is getting along with who, why someone's more personable, why they're, becoming an asset to a tribe, why they're, likable and are surviving in that regard. And I think if we can get back to that a little bit more, I think it'll be an improvement in many ways.
I think a good way to get some of if we want to keep the three tribes, fine. But I think if we did a tribe shakeup like every couple weeks.
Like two more,
like you don't get more than 2 weeks in the same tribe.
Yeah.
And then everybody swaps out. And then that way
part of me thinks that would also I agree. I think part of it would also make it harder for me to memorize people's allegiances.
Sure, but I think it would make for a much more interesting game, and it would give us a way to have the smaller tribes while also having the chaos and the ability for stronger players to make it further.
Right.
Because then people really have to start going, okay, now I'm constantly, like, people don't get stuck at the bottom of the tribe constantly. People don't get, just targeted and ignored. Like, you have to move swiftly and you have to move deftly. And I think that sort of thing would really bring some energy to mid-game.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, everybody. So let's talk about tops and bottoms of the episode. So we've got Drag Race and Survivor on this one. So who are we looking at?
So for my top for this week, I'm going to give it to Carolyn. Carolyn was really entertaining me this episode. I feel like I got more well-rounded elements of her story and sort of like bonded with. I love to see someone in that environment of Survivor in particular like fail a little bit, like as badly she failed with the whole idol play and the like stuff like that, and then somehow fixed it. Like and seeing them recover and seeing them sort of work with with what they're doing. Like, I think she's an interesting character that we haven't had in a while in terms of a sort of certain archetype on this show. That I really end up appreciating. My bottom for this week is, can I give it to Frankie Grande? Absolutely. Not my first choice in terms of this kind of a challenge. Yeah. Honestly, if we're talking about who was getting slotted in for somebody that didn't show up, it might have been Frankie. I'm sure they have Frankie on retainer. I'm sure. And it's not like he does anything else, so they just had to call him. Like, what does he do? That's a good question. What do you do? Successfully. Quickly. Yeah, but no, Frankie Grande is definitely my bottom for this week. What about you, babe? All right, so my top of the week is probably going to go to Matthew. Okay. I really thought, having the planning ahead of having that puzzle done, in your backyard and, working on it and getting that good at it. Like, he didn't drop it at all. He didn't drop the ball once. And he brought the Ratu tribe from behind, from last place in that challenge to finishing in first, single-handedly. So, and with a bum shoulder to boot. Like,
that's impressive. That's incredibly impressive. And it was because he planned ahead and because he took the initiative to know what game he was walking into.
Yeah.
Like, good on him. Bottom for the week, I think I'm going to go with Carson.
Okay.
Because he tried to do the same thing and it feels like he failed miserably.
He was the Great Value brand. Matthew.
Yeah, well, he's not even the Great Value brand of Cochran, because what he's trying to do is have that really mastermind sort of play, which Cochran, like, he's kind of a divisive character because a lot of people love him and a lot of people hate him. But personally, he's one of my favorites to watch on the game. So to see someone come in and try to play a similar game and fail so miserably at it is just...
Because you never want to see it with that archetype of a person.
Right. Because it's so bad. Like, you could either do it really good or really bad. There's really no in between with that kind of character. And he's failing so far. So it just did not impress me. To quote, who is that? No, not Leanne Rhymes.
Oh my God.
Shania Twain. There we go.
The other gay icon.
Yeah. Not the person that screwed over Brandy Glanville. Oh, jeez. Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode of A Gay and His Enby.
Join us next time for more of our recaps and hot takes. And be sure to subscribe and leave a review wherever you are listening. And check us out on our social media at A Gay and His Enby on all the platforms.
A special shout out to Shane Ivers, who wrote Pulsar, the song we use for our theme.
I'm Eamon.
I'm Merlin.
And we're out.
This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.